Hi guys, welcome back. So we're picking back up on the Dolton board meeting where they're discussing the abandoned house situation. Now, in my previous video, we listened to this attorney right here give her little spiel about a program called APAP, and it's a program she's looking to bring to Dolton to help take care of some of the abandoned houses. Now, Dolton's abandoned house situation has been going on way before Jason House, who was the current mayor, became mayor, way before Tiffany Henyard, who was the previous mayor, served her terrible term, and it was a major issue during the Riley Rogers administration. And he was the mayor before Tiffany Henyard.
A man and woman are shot in the far south suburban town of Dolton.
Both are now fighting for their lives.
Police with long guns at the ready pour over Dobson Avenue in Dolton, looking for a would-be killer. Canines were also deployed before dawn as investigators searched alleys and yards for the person who shot and critically wounded a man and woman inside this home.
I'm heartbroken. It's nothing like getting woke up at 3 in the morning and seeing shots fired.
Those shots broke out the front door and windows of this house, which was believed to be occupied by squatters. So village trustees like Tiffany Henyard and Valerie Stubbs were not surprised to hear that trouble had erupted inside.
That's someone that took over someone's house without their permission, and they stayed there.
Sources said just before 4 o'clock this morning, the door was smashed in and the male victim was shot inside. A female victim was found shot on the porch, where at least a couple of evidence markers could clearly be seen. Henyard says area residents have repeatedly called 911 to report possible criminal activity going on inside the home.
They do a lot of things that they should not be doing, and it should have been taken care of sooner, and it's not.
The victims of the shooting were both rushed to the ER. It's not clear how many times they were shot. What is clear is that the problem of abandoned homes in Dolton isn't going away.
Approximately 400 abandoned houses in the village of Dolton.
And Henyard says all those vacancies have robbed her of her sense of security.
And right now, I feel my community don't feel safe.
So yes, this has been an ongoing issue in Dolton for a long time now. Now, the program this attorney is trying to bring into Dolton, as I mentioned, is called the APAP program, and it's a program that's being currently used in Chicago Heights and also in the village of Burnham. So knowing that, I looked into the application process of this program, and I was able to find a good amount of information on the Chicago Heights website where they're promoting this program. Now, the village of Burnham, I wasn't really able to find the application for theirs. Now, with the Chicago Heights, I read through how the program works and the responsibilities of the applicant when they agree to get on board with this program. And it's interesting to say the least, you guys. But before we get a little further into this, if you're enjoying this video, you guys, please remember to leave it a like. You know, I find myself sometimes watching videos and I forget to leave a like. So I want to take this time, remind you guys, just please hit that like for me. It will help this get out there in the YouTube algorithm and help a lot of other people see it. So let's get back to this program. And I'm going to talk about some of the red flags I saw in this program. One of them is that after the person who's interested in getting a house and they paid the $5,000 to this attorney / this APAP company for her to file the paperwork and fight for the deed, it's still not guaranteed that the person will get the house. And that's because of another aspect of this program, where it says the city's sole responsibility is only to file a quitclaim deed. Now, of course, I had to look up what a quitclaim deed was because, like I said before, you guys, I'm not real estate savvy. But this is what I found about quitclaim deeds. A quitclaim deed is a legal document that transfers property ownership from a grantor, which is the seller, and a grantee, who is the buyer, without any promises about the title's validity or completeness. It transfers whatever interest the grantor has in the property, but offers no guarantees of protection to the grantee, making it unsuitable for most sales and better for transfers between trusted individuals, such as family members or divorcing spouses. So I'm sure you guys can just see by definition of a quitclaim deed and how they recommend it being used is definitely a red flag as it pertains to this company or the city's use of a quitclaim deed, because it clearly warns against doing this kind of transaction between two parties who are not familiar with each other. It says it's unsuitable for most sales, and yet this company, APAP, has it in the contract. At least it's in the contract they have with Chicago Heights. You know, Dolton, should they choose to go with this company, might change up their contract, you know, the wording a little bit, who knows. Now, some other aspects of a quitclaim deed is that there are no guarantees. And it says the deed does not guarantee that the seller actually owns the property or that the property is free from other claims, debts, or liens. So not only are they paying this $5,000 to APAP, but there is never any guarantee that the property they're working so hard to get is even free of claims, debts, or liens. Yeah, that seems a little risky to me. And as far as the $5,000 in escrow, they don't get any of that money back, and that the remaining money just goes towards the sale of the house after the dust settles. And I found that to be a little greedy and backhanded, because what I've observed and what I found out about escrow payments is that you're supposed to get the escrow money refunded back to you. Now, in some cases, they don't have to give the applicant the escrow money back, and that's if the buyer backs out of the home purchase for reasons not covered by the contract's contingencies, such as waiving conditions prematurely or simply changing their mind. And so I feel like that's why the APAP agreement is worded the way it is, and it makes sure that the applicant can't get any of their money back at all. There's also just a blanket statement of additional financial responsibilities besides the escrow payment that the applicant agrees to take on if they should arise. And it doesn't outline what specific additional costs could come up, it just says this: applicant agrees to advance funds to be held in escrow by the city for the purpose of paying for the expenses related to the acquisition of the subject property. The parties agree that any escrow balance remaining after acquisition shall be applied to the purchase price of the subject property, or if said expenses exceed said escrow balance, applicant shall pay for same to city upon demand. So basically, if you're dealing with shady individuals, then they could just charge you whatever they want and you have to pay for it, or you would no longer be in agreement with the contract you signed and you don't get the house either. Now, I've mentioned this several times. I'm not into real estate, so maybe this is all par for the course. And it might be just basic knowledge in the real estate game that you will have to take some chances like this when trying to get a house. But then again, these are not houses that are ready to be lived in. These are not nice houses that are family ready. These are abandoned houses that have been left to the elements for a long time, some even for decades. So I guess that's why I feel the risk of trying to get these houses should be minimum. Now, I don't know what the application and agreements will look like for Dolton when and if they draw up an agreement with APAP, but at the very least, they should see how this program is playing out over there in Chicago Heights and maybe dig into if some residents there have encountered any major issues with the program or not. I did do a little bit of research, just some surface research, and I found some houses that they already flipped and that they've posted some pictures of on Facebook. And these are pictures that the company, the APAP company, have posted up on Facebook just to show people how the houses went from before when they were abandoned to after they went through the APAP program, and now they're all remodeled, rebuilt. But like I said before, Dolton should still definitely do a little bit more research, get some reviews from people who were involved in this program, who actually went through it. Because for one thing, they don't want to find themselves in, and that's another BP Capital situation. You guys, if you don't know about the whole thing with BP Capital, it was a program that was brought into Dolton, led by this really slick attorney named Anthony Bass, and he was going back and forth with what the program was, who he represented, how he was representing himself, some aspects about the program, because it was supposed to be, once again, helping to solve the abandoned house situation in Dolton. But the whole thing didn't really work out for Dolton. Let me go ahead and play a little bit of some board meeting footage when they're talking about BP Capital, and there's a resident asking some questions about some aspects of the program, and in this instance she's asking about the raffle. Let's hear the attorney explain it, and then we'll hear her reaction as well.
Excuse me, I'm gonna call the attorney up so he can answer these questions. Can you come up? You can sit right here next to, right, but he can come up here and he can, basically you can answer the questions for. Come up, Attorney Bass, yeah, because we don't want to be in here all day. So you can come up, and as she's asking her question, you can give her an answer.
Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, I should. Your first question was a raffle, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, the first question, I think Mohammed answered, though.
Okay.
The guidelines for the raffle, how does that work?
Well, a raffle works like this. You'll have a qualified list of everyone who's qualified based on them having the resources to do the renovation work. And this is not something new. We did this in Harvey for about 8 years. And it's the same program that we did over there. And what happens is people are qualified based on them having the financial resources to do the renovation work, because you don't want to have a situation where people want a house and they're not financially able to fix the house up. So what happens is you'll get a list of homes. The people will then look at the list and they'll determine which ones, those are qualified people at that point, will look at the house that they're interested in. They'll put their name in. You'll have 5 names, you'll have a basket, just like the old-fashioned raffle. Whoever wins, that's who gets that one house.
Wow. So that's interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm thinking, could it not be, or can it be considered to have it to first come, first serve as opposed to a raffle? Because that to me would say whomever's ready and most interested in that property is going to make sure that they do everything they need to do to get it. A raffle to me, then this is just my opinion, kind of sets a tone that I don't know that I care for the tone that it sets. I think that if I'm ready to buy and I want this house and I got to compete against 5 people, I got my offer, I got my money in the bank, why do I have to go in a raffle?
So I definitely can see this from her point of view as to why she thinks the raffle is not a good idea. So let's compare it to, applying for a job. And so you have a bunch of candidates. They all have their application, they have their resumes, they all have good recommendations from their previous jobs, but then you put all their applications into a hat and then you go ahead and just pick out an application, and then that's the person who's hired. Now, does that seem fair? No. So how is it fair in this situation that it doesn't matter who got there first, whoever gets pulled out of this hat gets to pick whatever house they want? So I can totally understand where she's coming from with that. If you're there first, then yeah, you get first dibs because there's so many houses to choose from. First of all, then you can go ahead and choose what you want, and then the next person can choose a different house. But let's go ahead and continue to hear how he defends, this raffle aspect of this program.
I can understand what you're saying, but you may have 4 other people similarly situated like you. So
well, whoever comes first is the one. Well, that's just me.
The only thing I can do is I can answer your question.
Okay.
And everyone's a hypothetical. That's what you're giving me. At the end of the day, everybody is going to be ready at the same time with respect to them being qualified. Okay? Because you're going to create a qualification list. That's why you have to go out and get qualified to say you have the money. So you're then qualified for the property. Because see, the village, I wouldn't think, want to be in a position to deal with those who are not financially able. Because I heard your last question was a recapture issue. And we don't want to get into that because at the end of the day, if they've already been financially approved, they've already got the property, there's no issue with them because they're qualified. We know they can do the work. And your point is, if I come in on Monday at 9 o'clock and I'm saying I'm qualified and ready, I got my paperwork. Okay, that's fine. The lady may be standing behind you is 9:02 and she's getting it. And the reason why I say raffle, because that's the only fair way to do that if you set up a date and time when they're supposed to be qualified. It's just like any other type of situation when people are similarly situated. They'll give you a deadline. I'm sure they're going to come with a deadline as to when you're supposed to submit your data to show that you're qualified. Once that date is set, everybody who's filed will then be qualified. The way this has been done historically, to be fair to everyone, is to set a date as to when you are to comply with being qualified.
I understand that process,
yes,
but
ma'am.
I don't personally think that's fair. I think what's fair to me is that if I do my work and I do everything I need to do to get my lending or whatever I have to do, and I come in at 9 o'clock and say I want this house and I give you my money, then that's my house. And if,
no, stop right there.
Okay.
You're not giving any money at that point.
Well,
you're
whatever.
not giving a dime.
I'm doing a hypothetical. I'm thinking earnest money putting down.
No. What I'm trying to tell you, your hypothetical is incorrect. The only thing you're going to do is show me that you got $40,000 you have access to. That's it.
And I'm the first one in line that's interested in buying that house, and I'm saying this is my opinion. If I want that house, because I'm gonna be upset that I got to go into a barrel and hope my name is pulled because this is the property I want. But if I came in at 9 o'clock and I said I'm ready and I showed you the proof, why do 5 other people get to bid on my house?
So they're going to go back and forth for quite some time, but let me just sum it up. Basically, this lawyer is a little bit overbearing, okay? And he's just arguing his point that the raffle is fair because they have a certain deadline for everyone to have their qualifications in at a certain time, and then they go from there, throw everybody's name in a hat and pick it from there. But in my opinion, I think this actually leaves it open to more corruption, if you ask me, because who's picking these names? You know what I'm saying? You're just picking names out of a hat. Who is supervising? How do we know that they're not picking the name that they want to pick because they know someone? It just doesn't make sense to me to use a raffle in a decision that big. But let's go ahead and move on, because the previous mayor at the time was not on board with BP Capital. Let's hear him discuss why he was not with this company and what he didn't like about it.
I do think we need a program for the abandoned houses, but I don't think that we should pay $5,000 per house to get this processed. That's just for 10 houses. If you talk about we got 400 abandoned houses, figure that what that'll cost. Even if it was just we did 50% of it, why couldn't we have a program that said, okay, you want to charge us legal fees to process these houses? Why don't you get paid when the house is sold? You charge us $5,000 just to put it out there. Right. What if we don't get anybody to qualify for $40,000? Now, we've been billed the legal fees and the house still sits there. And the rate of return once the house is sold, we're not going to get any tax money for probably 2 years. Why do we have to pay $50,000 up front? And that's just for 10. Now, if you want this program to continue and go forward, and we went with 100 houses, how much money is that? Sure, we need a program, but the attorney, he said his interest is the south suburbs, getting these houses back on the property. He's in business to make money. And that may be a goal of his also, get somebody to occupy these houses. But I just think it's too much money for us to pay to get it done. And if we're gonna get it done, why can't he get paid on the tail end once the house is sold? Thank you.
So, needless to say, the mayor was not feeling this program, and he was definitely not feeling the attorney either. He kind of threw some shade at him, throughout this whole meeting. But also, I feel like this attorney was a little bit crooked as well, because when trying to research him, I really didn't find much information on him. And I feel like that's kind of a red flag when you're trying to find someone who is an attorney or involved in the law. Because if I was a potential client, I was looking for an attorney or a lawyer to represent me, he definitely wouldn't be someone I would choose. Just based off of the minimum information that I was able to find on him, it just didn't look that great. He didn't have any raving reviews. And in fact, the only type of review or opinion that I found on him was kind of like a warning that someone wrote regarding him and his services. And this is what it said. This guy scammed the village of Dolton out of 80 homes along with his co-conspirator Donald Meadows through the BP Capital scam. So this person is claiming that this guy came in there and they scammed the village. It also says he is the definition of a shady lawyer. It is appalling to see a black lawyer perpetuate financial crimes against a black community. But when you think about it, who better to do it, right? That's how they've always done it. If there's a thriving community, a black community back in the day, they would always send somebody that looks like them, someone they can feel comfortable with to slide in there and do what they need to do. That's how you would probably do in any situation, right? If you really wanted to bring something down or scam someone, you want to gain that trust first. All right. And then it also goes to say, search BP Capital on YouTube to see an ongoing documentary series which exposes his malevolence. They literally stole a house right from under a woman, and in another case, they scammed a home investor out of $80,000. It's amazing how he has managed to bury any negative press coverage of his actions aside from a single article in the Southland Journal. And I did find that article, it's just kind of laying out how this company came in there and they had to request FOIA about what happened, with the houses. It was just a hot mess. All right. But let's go ahead and continue, because we're going to get back up to date with, one of the recent Dolton board meetings where Jason House is now mayor. And we're going to hear trustee Brittany Norwood kind of explain the program a little bit more. And she's actually saying that Dolton can kind of curate the program, the APAP program, to meet their needs, and they can put what they want into it and word it how they want. Let's go ahead and listen, and then I'll chime back in.
in regards to our housing program, there's going to be different components. So this is just one component. As you all know, a few years ago, we tried to bring in the South Suburban Land Bank as an additional component also. So this is just the start. Over time, we'll see. We're just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And to add to that, as a village, she and I discussed, as we'll provide her with a list. So we've already had the village administrator. We have them in the housing working on the abandoned homes. And then once they submit that, we submit the inventory to her. That'll be an add-on. So for the most part, the residents finding a home is just like an added bonus, right? First person, early bird gets the worm. But we will be sending her some also. But we're all decided as a board, just so you all know.
What other municipalities are you in with this program is in?
So it's been in Chicago. It started in Chicago Heights,
okay.
And it's been there, I believe, 8 years now, possibly 7 years. And I want to say it's close to 200 homes that they have got back on the tax rolls that have been rehabbed and now have certificate of occupancies. It's been a huge success there. Burnham, Glenwood is actually starting it. Lansing has been looking into it.
And this will be a contract with you, correct? Will we be entering a contract?
Yeah.
Is it an amount of years or how does it work?
We can work on that separate. Yeah, we can work on it separate.
Okay.
I have another question.
Okay, trustee.
So will we be able, because I heard Trustee Norwood said, so it's our program. So we would build the ordinance of how this is going to be implemented before it gets to you?
I'll answer. My suggestion would be that we'll build an ordinance or build the documentation, bring it to not this October board meeting, but the following committee of the whole. So that way we'll have an opportunity for everybody to see what the ordinance and the program would look like. And then should that be acceptable at that time, move it to the November agenda.
But that's why we're going to have different components, because it is extremely important that regarding the program as a whole, Dolton residents have some type of first dibs in regards to the housing in the community that they live in. So this, when I say that this is just one of the components, this literally is just one of the components, just so that we can get started. But as the board, I did want her, and I didn't even send you all any information because you all are residents also. So I figured this way, she can kind of just start from scratch, kind of how she gave me the information, and you all can ask those questions. But we will have a housing committee meeting coming up also within the next few months. So during the housing committee, residents, please join us if you all have any questions and concerns. But just know this is an idea of a start. We want to ultimately have different parts of the program so that everyone can benefit, because we do understand that, and Ms. McGee said it to me. She said we can set the limits where one person can only buy 2 houses, or so whatever we decide, we tell her, and then she'll put it all together for us prior to moving forward.
So Dolton will have another board meeting coming up where the residents will get to sit and ask questions about this program. I really hope that a lot of them show up, especially people who are interested in it, so they can ask the important questions, and they should also do some research themselves on the program. That way they're ready and prepared to ask the questions they feel like they need to ask that pertains to them and what they want to see with the program if and when it goes to Dolton. Well, you guys, that's going to be it today. Let me know if you guys think they should get on board with this APAP program, or if you feel like this company is just out to make money and they might end up in worse shape than they were before. Or do you feel like, hey, anything is better than nothing and they just need to start doing something with those abandoned houses, okay? If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave it a like, and if you're new here, subscribe.